Good luck.
Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün Hollanda'nın Köklü Üniversitesi Leiden Üniversitesi'de lisans programlarını okul temsilcisi Caroline'den dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı sağ alt köşede questions bölümünden yönlendirmeyi unutmayın. Yes, Caroline, the stage is yours now.
Thank you so much, and welcome to everybody who's in my audience today. As has been introduced, my name is Carolyn Barr, and I work for Leiden University here in the Netherlands. I work with all the incoming bachelor, master, and PhD students from around the world. So thank you so much for your emoji love. I love that. So I'm here to work with you today, students who are thinking of studying in the Netherlands or at Leiden University. And of course, if we have families or teachers or counselors in the audience, welcome to you as well. And so I want to talk about studying at Leiden University overall. So I'm going to encourage you to ask your questions in the chat. As we go, we will get through to the questions at the end of the presentation, but I'm going to talk about the programs that we have on offer, the cities that we're located in, some practical matters such as finances, housing, student support, these kinds of issues. So I'll get to all of these things through the presentation and then give you some next steps if you want to learn a little bit more. So we'll get started to learn a little bit more about the university as a whole. So Leiden University is a research university, a large public university here in the Netherlands, and we offer 3-year bachelor programs. So you may know about the Netherlands that there are 2 types of higher education. There are universities of applied science that are 4-year programs focused on professional studies, and research universities that are academically focused with those 3-year programs. So Leiden is a research university. And we're over 34,000 students, but we're spread across 2 cities. We're also spread across 7 faculties. And that means you will never feel like you are, with 30,000 other students. It's much more, it's smaller, it's personal, or sometimes it's even what the Dutch would say is gezellig, which is a bit cozy. So some of your programs will be small scale, some will be slightly larger, of course, but you will be at one of our locations across the 2 cities. And there are over 6,000 international students at Leiden University, and many nationalities, including a large number from Turkey as well. We have a nice population of Turkish students on our campus. And I think it's because you are drawn to the types of programs that we have on offer. And currently we have 16 English taught bachelor programs spread across our 2 cities. And I will go through those so you know what to expect. Now, what makes us different? Because you're looking at lots of universities around the world, maybe other universities in the Netherlands, and sometimes things all tend to look the same. And there are, of course, lots of similarities across institutions, but there are some things that set Leiden apart from others in addition to the programs. So we have, of course, our history. We are the first university, or the original university of the Netherlands. We were founded in 1575, which means we're almost 4.5 centuries old. So there's quite a lot of reputation and history that go along with that, a lot of prestige that comes with that as well. From, for example, current alumni like King Willem-Alexander of the Netherlands. We also have our current prime minister as an alumni. Even famous researchers like Albert Einstein have taught and lectured and done research at the university. Our academic reputation is also top-notch. So we are a top 100 ranked institution worldwide. So top 1% of institutions around the world. And that's important because it means that your degree is recognized as a very high quality. So by other universities around the world, employers, these sorts of aspects are very important to know that it's portable in terms of the degree that you finished with. You can go to another country. You can also go home to Turkey, or of course you can stay in the Netherlands and continue to study or work. So that's absolutely possible as well. And I think a lot of students that I speak to around the world are very drawn to the fact that our programs are focused really on making some kind of impact, whether that is in society or through science and research. Because a lot of students are looking to, again, make that mark on the world. What are you going to do to change your community? What are you going to do to improve your community or your home country or another location around the world? And a lot of our programs do focus on these kinds of skill building and transferable skills that will help you in these kinds of careers later on. And I've mentioned already that we are in 2 cities. We're in the cities of Leiden and The Hague. And I'm going to show you actually through a visual story what each city is all about, the student life in each city, and information you need to know, plus the programs that are in each city in just a moment. And our areas of expertise are really where we choose to put our English program. So you'll see a number of programs across things like governance or politics, things like social behavioral sciences. A lot of humanities will be showing up. We have a lot of other niche programs like archaeology or crisis and security management or even artificial intelligence. So you see these areas of expertise, and you can kind of see in even that the themes in terms of making that societal or scientific impact in terms of our global aspect, our global outlook with those particular areas of expertise. So I'm going to start with Leiden because Leiden, both cities are very different. Their characters are different, and what is offered in each city is different. And that's important to know about our university. And in Leiden, it is very much a typical university town. It is about 130,000 people, so very small, maybe compared to where you're coming from. But 1 in 10 is a student or even more. So it's very much full of students, lots of student life going on in terms of, you know, the pubs or the places where you can go out at night, the restaurants, the takeaways, social aspects of the city are all geared to students overall. It's got the canals and it's got the cobblestones, it's got the windmills. We're 20 minutes from the beach by bike. You know, quite a lot of wonderful things to do. Lots of clubs and organizations here in Leiden as well. So we have everything from the University Sports Center, where you can play about 80 different sports, from football to volleyball to all sorts of fitness, workout routines, you know, rowing, all sorts of things that you can do at the University Sports Center. We also have the Plexus Student Center here in Leiden, where there is a gym, but also all of the types of services that you might need that I'll talk about a bit later in student support. But there's a full-on student center in the center of Leiden. Plus, every faculty building has all the services that you might need as well. So you don't actually have to go to the student centers if you don't choose to. But some of these photos can give you an idea of the look and feel of Leiden. So in the photo that you're seeing here, it shows you one of the really older university buildings. And it's actually the second floor that you can see there above the big windows is actually where Einstein did his research and taught his classes. So we were really surrounded by the botanical gardens here as well in this particular photo, which is a wonderful space for students to you know, spend their time reading on a nice day, relaxing if you have some time between classes, this sort of thing. And Leiden, in addition to being quite medieval with, like I was saying, those cobblestones and the canals and so forth, it's very green. So lots of parks across the city, lots of ways to stay fit in the city itself. So it's a wonderful spot to live with lots of students everywhere. And of course, all the buildings across each location are open to students to create your own study space and to find your favorite space to have a quiet moment and get the work done that you have to do. Now, hopefully this gives you a nice little pictorial, you know, idea of what to expect. The one thing I also wanted to mention about the Leiden is that when we're welcoming you on campus, we have what's called Orientation Week Leiden. There's something in The Hague as well, but this is Orientation Week Leiden. And this is a welcome week that is run by students. So you'll get to meet other people that are going to be at the faculties. You're going to have other people who are studying at all the different programs in Leiden. You'll of course, get a sense of where you're studying. You'll meet your professors, you know, hopefully feel at home in Leiden before you start your studies. So all of this will happen across the city itself. Now, in the city of Leiden, we have a number of programs on offer, and you'll see they fall into sort of a few main categories. We have our natural sciences, our behavioral sciences, our humanities, and our faculty of archaeology. So I'll start with archaeology, also because it comes first in the alphabet, but it's also very special, and it's something you may not have thought about. And we're special because we are a top 10 ranked faculty around the world for this program. Students are digging from their first year, so getting out there and actually, you know, learning all of the different techniques and getting to use them right away. And it's actually quite a unique multidisciplinary program for students who love history, culture, and science, because you're doing a lot of different types of scientific methods to really analyze what you're finding, you know, to be able to date the items that you found, to be able to look at the soil samples, to be able to, you know, piece things back together. So there's quite a lot of lab space in the archaeology building. So I pointed out because a lot of students don't necessarily think about it. And if you love those subjects, it might be something to think about. Now, of course, you can go into academics later on. You can go and become become a commercial archaeologist. Many major multinational corporations require this on staff. We have students that go on to all sorts of other industries completely as well. So there's a lot of transferable skills. And even cultural institutions, because of course museums and places where you can curate collections and so forth, quite a lot of opportunities here. Now, in the Faculty of Humanities, we have a number of things that are called area studies. And area studies are programs where you'll focus on one region of the world. So you'll see here African studies, South and Southeast Asian studies, and Dutch studies. And in these regions, you'll do language, culture, history. You'll also study in that region or do an internship in that region to really immerse yourself in the language as well. And you'll become a regional specialist. And students, again, will go on to many types of careers after this, whether that is in business, whether that is in things like international relations, whether it's in cultural institutions. Sometimes it's also dealing with languages and so forth. Maybe it works for, you might work for embassies or consulates or these kinds of things. But these are very specific programs if you're interested in these areas. African Studies is particularly special to us as well because we are the only Institute of African Studies in Europe. There's some other humanities here. So we see English language and culture, which has an element of linguistics, but also English literature, if you're interested in these kinds of subjects. And linguistics itself is here, and we are a top 25 ranked program in this particular area, where you're learning all about language, what makes it, how we use it and how it makes us human, how to document that, how to research and document lost languages, for example, and to see how sort of humanity is brought together by language. Art history has a modern twist where we're looking at recent art history all the way up to things like social media and artivism. And artivism is things like, think of the artist Banksy. They make political statements by the different types of works that they post all around the world. And then it becomes a matter of public discourse. People are discussing and talking about whatever the political statement is. That's an example of what you might study here, or how what we're seeing in society reflects what we see in the art world, for example. So a modern twist on art history. Philosophy also has a unique twist at Leiden where you're studying both Eastern and Western philosophies, because normally it's one or the other. So it's quite unique in Europe as well. And our very popular programs come also into our behavioral and social sciences programs. So you'll see psychology here. It is all about, of course, individuals and how we do things, how we grow and develop as individuals, how that works when it goes right and how it also goes when it goes wrong. So you can think of things like cognitive psychology, clinical psychology, economic and consumer psychology, neuropsychology. There are many perspectives that students will look at in this program and start to specialize over their 3-year program, leading to usually a master program afterwards. You'll see the letters NF after this program because this is what's called a numerus fixus program. Programs that have a fixed number or a cap of the number of students that we can admit every year, and thus it is a highly selective program. Cultural anthropology and development sociology is all about groups or populations of people, and we're studying their culture. We're studying how they behave in groups, what the norms and traditions are, how they behave with other groups, for example. And you're in the field from your first year. You're going to be studying different groups. You're going to be learning how to digitize your research. And that means learning things like photography and video techniques to be able to do a documentary, meaning document your particular research and the people that you're studying. You'll learn interview techniques and other journalism techniques, actually, because you do need to be able to interview and work with your populations of people. So students that go into this are often, of course, looking at the academic side of things and learning all about groups and people, but sometimes they're also looking at those journalist opportunities to go into this particular area. So currently we have a large number of students in this program that have become city photographers for the city of Leiden, where they're going around and talking to Leideners, learning their story, photographing them and sharing their stories in the newspaper. So something totally different that you might not have thought about when you saw the words cultural anthropology and development sociology. And the last thing that's on offer in Leiden is our data science and artificial intelligence program. It is from our Faculty of Science. It's a program that is new in English this year. So 104 students started in September of 2022. It's a very much a computer science-based program where you're going to be dealing those aspects in year 1 and moving on with your data science and artificial intelligence subjects like machine learning through your program. It's very research focused, very analytical at a very high level in terms of theory. So I often recommend students to take a look at the content to see if it really matches what you're looking for if you're interested in this area. Now, 10 minutes away by train, or 12 minutes exactly, is The Hague, which is the international city of peace and justice. You can see from this photo that it's much bigger than Leiden. It's very much a young professional city, so the high rises and so forth, but there are many neighborhoods across this city. It's also 20 minutes from the beach, which I'll show you a bit later. But students are often very much entranced by the idea of coming to The Hague, because the programs that you'll see that are offered here all have something to do with the theme of the city. This is where the consulates and embassies are located in many cases. The international criminal courts are located here. Lots of NGOs or non-government organizations, such as the Organization for the Prevention of Chemical Weapons. We also have NATO here. So really you're in the thick of all of the international relations and global affairs organizations. The government itself is also located here, which is pictured in front of you at the moment. This is not far from our main campus building. It's a lovely place for students to walk and hang out as well on a nice day. Our main campus building is called the Wijnhaven, and it's quite a large complex in the center of The Hague where students from all of our faculties have courses. Some programs will have large lectures like you see here. Many will have much smaller courses, but also you'll have tutorials where you'll be in smaller groups, and work groups will be working together in much smaller groups, even if you have a large lecture such as this. The beach, I said, is 20 minutes away, and a lot of students like to live in this particular area. It's called Scheveningen, which is a very interesting Dutch word. But if you love to keep fit, you can hike in the dunes, you can surf or kite surf in the North Sea. It's a wonderful spot for students, also socially, to be on the boulevard and all the different restaurants and clubs and so forth, to have some fun there as well. In The Hague, we do the Hague orientation program. So I talked about in Leiden, the orientation week there. In The Hague, it's called the Hague orientation program, or the HOP week. And that's where you'll meet all the other students who are coming in at the same time as yourself. You'll learn all about the city of The Hague. You'll start to feel at home and comfortable there as well before you start your classes. You'll meet your professors and, again, hopefully make lots of friends. So we do have a lot of services here in addition to the HOP week, because, of course, if you need any assistance, there is the Beehive Student Center. There is a gym there where you can work out and keep fit. There's lots of clubs and associations in The Hague as well, certainly per program. And both cities, you'll find the European Student Network for lots of social opportunities. There's really not... There's so much on offer, you'll have to pick and choose what you want to take part in to make sure it fits into your schedule so you can do everything that you would like to do. So think of anything like the Mali United Nations or Debate Club, all the way through to things like Amnesty International or students who like to play music and so forth. So there's quite a lot of options for you. Now, also in The Hague on the screen at the moment is something called Leiden University College, which is our residential honors college in The Hague. Students have to live on those top 20 floors, and they have classes and other areas on the bottom 5 floors. And they have small scale classes because it's a liberal arts and sciences program. I'll tell you just about that in just a moment. But this just gives you an idea of the difference between programs. So this program has no more than 20 students in a class, whereas just a few screens ago, you saw a large lecture, which might be for something like our international studies or international relations program. So that kind of leads us into the types of programs that are on offer at the campus in The Hague. And here, like I said, every program has something to do with the theme of the International City of Peace and Justice. So I started showing you those pictures of the Liberal Arts and Sciences Leiden University College building. So we have a Global Challenges program there. And this program brings all of the areas of expertise of Leiden University into one liberal arts program. Now, you may have heard the term liberal arts before in reference to the USA. And of course, this is a very American style of education. It's where you will choose different topics of study to combine, so majors and minors. So a major topic is one that you are going to mainly focus on, but a minor will be a sub-interest that you can combine and create your own curriculum. So it's very flexible. If you're not certain what you want to study, or you know you want to study more than one topic, this might be an option for you. It is our residential honors college. So like I indicated, you have to live in that building that I showed just a screen ago. And it is highly intensive, so it's a highly selective program as well. But you'll see on the screen here that we have 6 majors within this one program. So we have things like public health, earth, energy, and sustainability. We have culture, history, and society, governance, economics, and development, world politics, and international justice. And you can mix and match these topics to really personalize your curriculum. There are additional minors such as psychology or entrepreneurship or gender studies. There's a few more as well. But if you're interested in that flexible nature and combining topics of study, the Liberal Arts and Sciences Global Challenges program at Leiden University College might be a good option for you. The other 4 programs that are on offer in The Hague also, again, have something to do with these themes. So you'll see security studies, and this is all about crisis and security management. This is about things like terrorism, counterterrorism, cybercrime, organized crime, natural disasters, these sorts of things. And looking at them from an analytical standpoint, how do we manage these crises? How can we make public policy to again, help make an impact in this area? So it is a cutting edge, newer type of study out there. Urban studies is also something that is newer for a lot of students as well. And it is all about cities. And because 70% of the world will be living in a city in the next 30 years, this is a very timely subject for careers of the future. And in urban studies, it's multidisciplinary. We will look at cities from the perspectives of health, safety, multiculturalism, and sustainability. So you'll be able to look at these topics and to learn a lot more about cities as case studies in this program. Political science is a bit of a traditional subject, and we have a lot of students who are interested in international relations and organizations. You'll see the NF beside this particular program as well. So once again, this is a numerus fixus or capped program that is highly selective. So this is all about world history, the world order, the organizations that are part of this as well, and very analytical. International studies brings together all of our area studies at Leiden University. So students will choose one of 8 regions of the world. They will become a specialist in that region. They will compare that region to the rest of the world, but they'll be studying the politics, the economics, the culture, and the history of that region, in addition to a language. So this is one of our most popular programs at the university. So you can see the characters of Leiden and The Hague are very different. The programs that are on offer are also very different in each particular city. So that should give you a good idea of what to expect in terms of what we are looking at and what Leiden University offers. Now, I want to talk a little bit about eligibility, because if any of those programs, are very interesting to you, or it piques your interest to look a little further, you want to know if you're able to apply to these particular programs. And for the Turkish diploma, I put here on the screen here, we're looking for the Lise Diplomazi with, from a general lycée with a score of 80% or higher. If you're looking at a social science program like our international relations or psychology or cultural anthropology program, we are looking for mathematics in each year of your diploma with grades of higher than 80%. Otherwise, you will be requested to take an online math test, which is called the OMPTD. And for science programs, you will be required to take that test if this is your particular diploma. Now, most programs don't require that, but if the program you're looking at does require math proficiency, then you will probably have to do this external test that can be done online and prepared for online as well. Now, if you're doing another type of diploma, because perhaps in the audience you're from an international school, or maybe you're somewhere else in the world even, then in Turkey it is possible. So I put a couple of the typical international diplomas that we see on the screen, but we do accept over 40 diplomas from around the world. So if yours is not here, do not fret. There is probably an option for you. But we will look at an IB diploma with a passing grade, the high school diploma from an American school with a 3.5 GPA, with some APs, with high scores of 4 to 5. 3 academic A levels with grades of C or higher, and the European diplomas that grant access to higher education. A number of these programs may have further requirements, which often ends up in the form of mathematics. So there will be minimum types of aspects of that in some of these diplomas, depending on the program that you're looking at. Now, that gets you into most programs in Leiden University, but also across the Netherlands. But some programs will have further selection. So just to come back to those numerous fixes programs, our international relations and psychology programs will be looking at more than just those diploma requirements. They will be looking at your grades, and they'll be looking for academic excellence. They may be looking at an online test that we would give you during the selection process. And international relations looks at your motivation. That liberal arts program at Leiden University College, The Hague, is residential. So they only have 200 rooms available, and therefore they have to select their students. But they're looking at academic excellence, motivation is critical. They'll want to hear from your counselors or your teachers in terms of a recommendation, and you may have an interview. Now, it's not important to remember exactly these pieces at this moment. The important piece here is to remember that most programs look at your diploma as the main source of admissions. But 3 of our 16 programs have these extra selection processes. And that often means they have earlier deadlines. You have to be prepared in advance. And therefore, it's best to inventory per program before you apply what's required and when. Now, I do want to have a note on application here, because in the Netherlands, there's no centralized application system. But at Leiden University, you will start in a place called StudyLink, which is our national database for all higher education students. There, you'll be able to choose up to 4 programs across the country to apply to. So you'll make an account, you'll add those 4 programs, and if one of them or more of them are from Leiden University, you'll receive an email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to create an account in our own application system. And there you can finish your applications for the programs that you have noted in StudyLink. So the application is 2 parts. It's StudyLink and the Leiden University online application system. Leiden University also charges a €100 application fee for up to 3 programs being applied to at the university. However, the University College in The Hague has their own separate fee of €50. So it does depend on what you're applying to, depending on what the application fee will be. And applications for this coming September are already open. They opened on October 1st, and deadlines range between about December 1st and May 1st, depending on the program. So again, it depends on the program when you'll have your deadline, and it's important to double check what those would be. The numerous Fixes programs have a January 15th deadline that is standardized across the entire country. Now, I wanted to come back to a couple of practical matters, and then we'll start getting into some of your questions as well, because you guys have been great in listening for so long. But student support is very important, because I find when you're coming from abroad, that you might be, it's important to note that personal responsibility and proactivity is very important in the Netherlands. Those are very Dutch characteristics. You have to be your own advocate. So that means that there's lots of layers of support. There's lots of people to help you, like myself, for example. But you do have to step up and ask for it, to seek out the people that you need in order to get that assistance. And in your program, you'll have a study advisor or a program advisor, and they can always be your first port of call when you need some help. They will help direct you to the right people. So always make sure you're in touch with that particular person, but they might connect you to any of the non-academic support advisors that you might need, whether that's psychological or legal or financial, for example. Maybe you have a learning or a functional disability, and so we have the Fenestra Center for that, and they help you with all whatever accommodations that you are needing. There's career services, because of course we want you to be looking at your career options, and there'll be lots of trainings and workshops and help to look for jobs later on. We have excellence programs. So if you want extra challenge during your program, you could absolutely do that. You can do study abroad as well, or possibly an internship, depending on the program that you're in. And we do have a housing officer to assist with housing, because in the Netherlands, housing is at a premium, meaning there is a shortage of student housing. So we assemble all the information we can on our housing office website to give you instructions on how you can look for housing on your own, because you are responsible for finding your own housing, and also how you can request a little bit of assistance through Leiden University. So the university does reserve a very small number of rooms in both Leiden and The Hague each year. You can apply for those, but it's not guaranteed. So it's important to continue to look for your own housing. But we do put a lot of information on our housing office website. And so I also recommend that you inventory that type of information when you're applying to any university in the Netherlands, so that you're aware of that process. Now, there is an exception to this. As you might remember, I said that liberal arts and sciences program at Leiden University College is residential. So that means you have to live there for the first 2 years, but it is the only residential program at the university overall. Now, financial matters are also very important, because you do have to plan financially to be able to study abroad. And the tuition fees in the Netherlands are set by nationality, and basically on category of nationality, actually. So the government sets the fees for the European Union or European Economic Area citizens. So if you have a passport from an EU or EEA country, your tuition fees in the next academic year will be €2,314 per year. If you're looking at that liberal arts and sciences program at Leiden University College, their fees are higher even for EU students. So just under 5,000 euros per year will be for an EU citizen there. For all other programs, if you're a non-EU or non-EEA citizen, it ranges on the faculty that you're going to be studying with. Most programs will be 12,500 euros per year. The Data Science and Artificial Intelligence program is slightly higher with the Faculty of Science at 16,300 euros per year. And the University College is just over 18,000 euros per year for their particular program. So it's also important to inventory tuition fees. So when you're inventorying if there's a selection process, what your deadlines might be, what your tuition fees are, and how housing works for that particular program. Now, I've seen some questions here in the side, and hopefully this will answer the financial pieces. For the non-EU citizens, we do have the Holland Scholarship. The Holland Scholarship is a merit-based scholarship, but quite a small award. It's 5,000 euros in your first year only. It is not renewable. So if you're an academically excellent student, we have 18 of these scholarships across the university, so you can definitely apply for that. But you still have to be able to financially plan for the rest of your tuition, as well as all of your living expenses and all costs in your second and third year. So it's something to keep in mind. Living expenses range between about 800 and 1,200 euros per month, depending on the type of accommodation you arrange. So this would cover rent and food and a bit of social life, a little bit of travel, your insurance, a bike, these kinds of things. And 800 would be more towards the side of you're sharing a house or sharing facilities like bathrooms and kitchens with other students. The 1,200 euros per month might be more towards having, your own studio, for example. And of course, your lifestyle will factor into this as well. If you like to eat out or go out a lot, or if you like to shop a lot, you're going to have to be balancing and budgeting a bit more per month than this. Now, if you happen to be an EU citizen or have an EU passport, you do have access to tuition fee loans in the Netherlands, where you can loan the tuition fees from the Dutch government at a low rate over long term. So there are some financial planning options for EU citizens as well, but no scholarships because the tuition fees are quite low for EU citizens. There are other ways to financially make it quite a little bit easier. There are different kinds of subsidies that you can apply for in terms of rental subsidies and insurance subsidies as well once you're in the Netherlands. So there are ways to financially plan. But for the most part, you do need to be able to budget for your tuition fees and living expenses in the Netherlands. So I wanted to do a bit of a wrap up before we start going into some questions. Because when I talk to students around the world, like yourself, I ask them at the end of the day, why Leiden? Why did you choose us? Because you had a lot of options. And while I have all the things that I love about the university and the cities and the Netherlands, I'm always very curious to find out, what is it that pops up for students? And that's what I based this presentation on, actually. So, we talked about that academic and research environment in the beginning, plus that sort of reputation of the university and the academic recognition. And a lot of these sort of three things bind together for a reason that a lot of students will choose Leiden. It's peace of mind that their degree is recognizable around the world. It's a very high level of education and the prestige that goes along with the Leiden University name. I think students are very much interested in the unique programs that we have on offer, the environment that they're being taught in, and that impact that's really that focus and that theme, like I indicated. And because of these things, we attract ambitious and academic students. So students are often attracted by the fact they'll be studying with other students like that as well. But at the end of the day, it's also about the cities of Leiden and The Hague. Students are drawn to the locations themselves, the diversity of our student body, because these programs have between 30 and 60% international student body with students from all over the world, those 120 nationalities this year that I mentioned. The Dutch experience, which I didn't talk too much about in this presentation, but they love the idea of coming to the Netherlands because it is a wonderful destination. It's a small country, so it's easy to experience the entire country over your program time frame. We're at the footstep of Europe, so you can really, get out and do road trips to different cities and different countries. Pretty much 3 hours in any direction, you're in another country in the Netherlands. So it's very easy to have a European experience here when you're in the Netherlands as well. Everyone speaks English to a very high proficiency, so there's so many programs available in English, including all the ones that I've talked about today. And you won't have any communication problems in the Netherlands. You'll always be able to talk to someone in English, or at least communicate, even outside your programs, across the cities. So it's, again, peace of mind that it's an easier destination sometimes in that case, in terms of your living and your life. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't learn Dutch. I do recommend that you pick up some Dutch because it makes life a little bit more fun and you can immerse yourself a bit more in your study abroad experience, but it's not required, so that stress is lifted, I think. I think they love the student support options and that they can be independent. They can be their own person. They can start their academic life on their own terms. And the cost of attendance is very competitive for non-EU as well as EU citizens. So I think all of these things really do combine to help students make their final decisions, or at least the first decision, to look a little deeper. And with that, I'm going to leave this on the screen as we answer some questions, because we have lots of ways to learn a lot more. So this is your taste, of Leiden University. Leiden University in a nutshell is how we would say it. But there's many types of events that we put in place to help you decide. And those start with open days. And we have an in-person open day, but you may not be able to come to the Netherlands for that. But it is on October 22nd. The registration is open. And then the online open day registration for November 12th actually opened today. So if you want to join us online to have presentations about each program, to meet students and professors, to have a little information market, learn about all the clubs and associations and all those kinds of things, we're doing this online for our international students because we realize that you can't always make it to the Netherlands. So that is November 12th. There's lots of other events after those open days. So we have what are called experience days, which are sort of information days per program. You can be a student for a day on campus. We have campus tours of some of the programs. There are online taster modules for a number of programs as well, where you can try it out, see if it's for you. You can always chat with a student from a program on our website very easily. These are student volunteers that are there to have a conversation. You can ask them anything. You can find students from your program of interest or from Turkey. You can just search by country. And of course, you can take virtual tours of each of our faculties and of the cities, so you can get a look and feel more than what I've been able to visually share with you today. Now, of course, I'm sure you'll find us on social media. So whether that's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, maybe you're still on Facebook, probably not, but maybe your parents are there. You can find us there and on LinkedIn. So absolutely use those channels, because I think it shows you a lot about the look and feel and what students are up to. We share a lot of that on our social media channels, which I think gives you quite a lot of insight. And of course, we have traditional ways where you can keep in touch. The study@leidenuniv.nl email here is my office with myself and my 2 student assistants, Rosie and Leo, and the 3 of us answer your emails every day. So we're happy to take questions on a regular basis after something like this. And I will be in touch with you. But that's a lot of talking on my behalf. So I did want to sort of go to the questions that I'm seeing sort of here on the left or so right-hand side for me. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to start going through these one by one. So if you have questions, please continue to type them sort of in the Q&A section. And I'll be able to hopefully we've got lots of time for questions. So I see, Marav, you're asking, is there any flexibility for the application deadlines? This is a great question, because a lot of students think that there would be flexibility. And I'm going to say, unfortunately, generally not, because there's quite a lot of time before deadlines. And certainly if it's a selective program, there is no flexibility. So always apply prior to a deadline. Don't wait till the last minute so that you might miss it. Make sure that you know what those deadlines are, because they will vary in one university, but also across the country. So inventory it and make sure you're submitting ahead of time. It also helps to apply early in many cases, because if it's not a selective program, you'll find out fairly quickly if you're admitted, and then you can start making other decisions like looking for housing. If you wait till the last minute to apply, you might be stressed. You might either miss the deadline, or it becomes a little bit more difficult to look for something like housing, for example. And Ada is asking, can international students do an internship while studying? And in many cases, the answer is yes. Now, it is not a part of your academic program at the research universities to do so, but many students will do internships either outside their studies in the summer times, or sometimes in the first semester of their 3rd year. You can often choose an internship, a minor, or a study abroad option. It's not possible to do all 3. You do have to check. So that's why a lot of students will do short-term internships alongside their studies or do a summer internship. So it is possible. And where it is possible, there'll be an internship coordinator to assist you, but you still do have to find your own internship and apply for it. So there aren't placements, so to speak. So that's a great answer. Now, of course, in other Dutch institutions, you're also able to do internships too. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, Seema was asking about the living expenses in the Netherlands, and I did sort of cover that, but I do want to make sure that it's been clear that they can range quite drastically depending on sort of your lifestyle and the accommodation that you find. So I did give a range of 800 to 1,200 euros, which is a very big range. And that's mainly because, you know, sharing a room with somebody or sharing facilities in a house with other people, you might be able to find a room for 450 to 650 euros a month. But if you're looking at a studio, you're looking at 900 euros a month or up usually. So there's quite a range there, as you can see, in terms of your living accommodations. And of course, food and rent and insurance and those kinds of things can vary slightly. But, you know, in that kind of range, you should be able to manage on a monthly basis overall. And Sema also has another question about the application process. And again, you sort of heard me say this a number of times that it depends. And this is true per program. So I'll give an example. If you're applying to 13 of our programs that really just base their admissions on your diploma and don't have an extra selection process, if you apply and you have all your documents in, usually within 2 weeks, our admissions office will give you a conditional offer if you meet the requirements. And the condition will be that you have to graduate and finish the requirements. But they process applications quite quickly in that sense. But the applications for selected programs, students have to go through selection, and that takes time. So with our university college, the Leiden University College Liberal Arts program, the first deadline is December 1st. The final deadline is March 15th. And it takes, between those two dates for the first cohort to go through selection. That means providing their motivation statement and the letter of recommendation, going through all the interviews that are required. And then students will find out if they're admitted or if they'll be reconsidered in the second deadline cohort. And then again, it takes a couple months to go through that process. For the numerus fixus programs, the deadline is January 15th and students find out on April 15th. So it's a 3-month process for those programs. So it can depend on exactly how long the selection process will take as to how long the application process will take. The physical application in terms of StudyLink registration and filling in the actual forms and submitting them can be quite quick, but it's never all on the same day. So that's why the deadlines are important, because you need to register in StudyLink and submit your application. So try to make sure that you're doing that at least a week in advance of a deadline so you don't get too stressed out. Mira's asking about, do we have a pre-sessional program? And so I'm thinking that maybe you're meaning like a foundation or a pre-university program there. And at Leiden University, we do not have a foundation program. We do expect that students will meet the minimum requirements. If for whatever reason, if you're in the audience and you don't think you're going to meet, or you don't meet the requirements that are listed on the eligibility screen, that doesn't mean there's no pathway. So there are some foundation programs around the world that we would consider. It's not guaranteed. But in the Netherlands, you might remember I mentioned the Universities of Applied Science very early in my presentation. So there's another kind of higher education in the country where you might be eligible to apply for. And you can do the first year of one of those programs and apply to a research university afterwards, should you choose to. So it's almost like its own foundation year. But you might also find a program at one of those institutions that really fits you and you actually want to complete the program. So that's also very possible. So there are some pathways into the research universities. Now, Yeliz, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing names incorrectly. My apologies if that's the case. Is asking, what would be a good impression on our application when we apply to Leiden? And I'm going to say, for again, the 13 programs that don't require extra selection, all they're looking at is your academics. So your diploma and your academics is what they're looking for. They don't have to know very much about you. They may ask for CV, but they don't really take other aspects into account. It's your academic ability that they're looking at. So that's something important. When it's a selective program, look at the criteria, look at what they're asking you for. And if there's a motivational statement in there, that is a critical piece of information for them. They really, really want to know, why do you want to do this program? Why at Leiden University? So really reflect on that and really think deeply, specifically about that, instead of just recycling a motivational statement from somewhere else. Make sure you're really writing it to the program and to the university. That would be my biggest tip to make a good impression in those particular application processes. And I also see there's a question here about the possibility of working while studying. And yes, you can. So regardless of your nationality, it is possible to work in the Netherlands part-time. For EU citizens, of course, there's no restrictions, but for non-EU citizens, they do restrict you to 16 hours per week, 1/6. And that's a lot of hours to work if you're studying a research university program. So most of my student assistants, for example, only work up to 10 hours, and that's a lot for them to handle while they're doing their studies. So it's not really that much of a restriction, is the point of that story. So yes, you can work. You do need a work visa if you are a non-EU student, and your employer must apply for that. So you will not be able to get a job and start in your first couple of weeks. It takes about 5 weeks to get a work permit. So I recommend that students try to make sure they can afford their first semester without getting a job, so that they can have time to settle in. They have time to look for a job and to get that work permit, so that you're not panicking if you don't have quite enough. So try to make sure your first semester is covered financially when you arrive in the Netherlands. And I have Faiza is asking, do you have student clubs where foreign students can be easily socialized? And yes, there's lots of clubs, lots of social options at the university. In particular, there's the European Student Network, which is completely social. They are active in Leiden, very much so, and starting to be active in The Hague. And it's all about, games nights, cultural festivals, road trips across Europe, just informal get-togethers, just socially getting together and having some fun. So all students can join the ESN. Every program will also have their own student association, which is also a very good connection for social, but also academic reasons. So I highly recommend joining your program association. And if there's something else you like to do, maybe it's sports, or maybe you love to debate or something like that, take a look at the other small scale clubs that might be something you enjoy. So absolutely, you can join these things. If you want to meet Dutch students, the ESN also works, but we have things like Leiden United, which will show you the Dutch fraternity system and help you meet Dutch students as well. So there's ways to integrate with other Dutch students too. So lots of opportunities. Like I said earlier, you kind of have to pick and choose what fits into your schedule, because there's a lot to choose from. And I will say, because you're expected to be an independent adult when you come to the Netherlands, you do have to manage your time. But it's also important to realize that there's a life-work balance that the Dutch have in this country. It's a cultural sort of thing that you are expected to be able to take care of yourself mentally and physically. So, take the time to get out and go for a walk or work out every day. Take the time to socially meet people and take a break from your studies. So that is highly encouraged at the university, but also within the culture here in the Netherlands. And Ada also asked about the scholarships, and I did go over the Holland Scholarship, but I will mention it again, just in case anybody has joined us late. We're looking at the Holland Scholarship, which is the €5,000 award in the first year only. So students do have to be able to look at the rest of their fees and their living expenses for financially planning. It's not a renewable scholarship. And there are only 18 of them across the university, so it's highly, highly competitive. Now I'm going to scroll up here because I think we do have a couple of new questions here. And Ekrem has joined us, I think, maybe a bit late. So the programs that come to the forefront of Leiden University are sort of all the programs I've talked about here that are put in English. So our areas of expertise are really things like governance and global affairs, crisis and security management, behavioral and social sciences, humanities, sort of the language, culture, history aspects, artificial intelligence, and even archaeology. So there's quite a lot of options. And that's where we really chose to put our English taught bachelors in our areas of expertise. expertise. And it's also asking about occupations to take advantage of after graduation. And this will depend completely on the program that you're looking at. So there are a myriad of careers that students go on to. However, invariably, most students will go on to do a master program after their bachelor. That's pretty typical. But from there, you know, if students are taking a program in global affairs or international relations, they will often, you know, maybe they go work for a think tank, maybe they go to work for a non-government organization or an embassy or a consulate. Maybe they get into diplomacy. Some students take the military route or the law enforcement sort of areas. Some of them go more to the cultural and linguistics areas and companies and organizations. Of course, if you're doing data science, you often will become a data scientist or a consultant or an analyst in these kinds of areas with major corporations or other smaller scale companies. Some students are entrepreneurial and they create their own NGO or they create their own business. That is very possible. We have students that are studying language, culture, and history of different regions. So sometimes they will go to work in those regions specifically or work with organizations that work specifically with those regions. There's quite a huge range. You know, we have art historians that are out there working, curating in museums. We have archaeologists doing the same or working with major corporations, you know, that are, for example, in a lot of construction. The range is quite large. So I tell students to really look at each particular program. Each program gives a bit of an overview of what to expect after graduation, but the world is at your feet and the job that you will get will be dependent on you. Your degree, of course, gives you the foundation. It gives you the skills that you can use. We also give you workshops and training on how to look for jobs, how to interview, and so forth. But you will have to be the one to decide what you want to do and really go out and get the job of your dreams, hopefully, at the end of all of this. So that a big chunk of this does rely on each student to take it that next step after they graduate. So hopefully that gives you a bit of information there. Now, I know we're coming up to the end of our hour, but if anybody has any further questions, please feel welcome to add them in the chat here. We have still a little bit of time to do so. I think most of the questions that you've asked are questions that I often get from students around the world. I'm trying to just think off the top of my head if there's anything that we haven't touched upon today that often comes up. But I think a lot of them are here. So this is sort of your last moment, I think, to ask a question. And otherwise, I would probably invite my colleague here to finish up if we don't see any more questions coming in. Because I think I see nothing else coming in at the moment, unless I'm missing something and you can point that out to me as well. But I think we've got all the questions here. Or any concerns that you might have about studying abroad, studying in the Netherlands, life in the Netherlands. I'm also happy to answer those kinds of questions as well. Please feel welcome to ask them in here. And keep in mind, all of the things that are on the screen at the moment, I highly recommend joining our online open day, November 12th. Hopefully this has really piqued your interest to learn more about the university and to maybe dig a little deeper, chat with a student on our website, really find out what it's like to be studying from a student point of view. Because of course I can answer all your questions and I can tell you all about the university, but at the end of the day, it's the students who are studying it that are experiencing it, and they can give you an insight that of course I can't. So heavily use that resource that we've put together for you, and the students who are volunteering their time to chat with you. They really have the best insight in the world. Well, I think that's probably it. I see no more questions coming in. So Zeynep, I'm not sure if you want to sign off with the session itself, or if we want to wait for some more questions that are coming in. Anyone who's just come into the session as well, please feel welcome to put your chat question in the chat. Ask me a new question. We've gone through quite a lot of aspects overall, and some really, really great questions from the audience. If there's any other further concerns, please let me know. I'm happy to help. And send us an email if you have any questions after today. So please feel welcome. It's myself and my 2 student assistants. Like I said, we're here for you. That's the whole idea, to see if Leiden University is a great fit for you. And I hope it is. And I hope that we see you sometime on campus very soon. Oh, I see that Syed has asked about scholarships. So I think maybe you've missed the section we talked about scholarships. So I will reiterate here that we do offer for non-EU or non-EEA citizens. We have the Holland Scholarship, which is a €5,000 award in the first year only. It is not renewable. So students, it's a merit scholarship. So we're looking at academic excellence. And there are 18 of them across all of our programs to offer to students around the world. So if you're an excellent student, I highly recommend applying there, but keeping in mind that you'll have to also be able to financially plan for the rest of your tuition fees and all of your living expenses in year 1, plus all expenses in your year 2 and 3. Yes, so on the screen, you'll have the email. So study@leidenuniv.nl comes to me and my student assistant. So that's the best place to contact us if you have questions. You'll get a fast answer there for the most part. So please make note of that on your screen at the moment. Like I said, the registration for the online open day has opened today. So the November 12th online open day, the registration opened. So please feel welcome to join that and register for that as well. But also feel welcome to email us, to ask questions, to go to chat with a student online, and go from there, I'd say.
Yes, thank you very much for the great presentation, Caroline. We believe it was very informative for the attendees, and you covered all of the questions. Thank you for your answers too.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I hope everyone in the audience found it useful.
Also, I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Umarım sizin için de faydalı bir webinar olmuştur. Bir sonraki webinarlarımızda görüşmek üzere. Leiden Üniversitesi ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için şu anda ekranda görmüş olduğunuz mail adresinden Caroline her zaman ulaşabilirsiniz. Thank you very much again, Caroline. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.